All right, it is now 2 o'clock. I will call on Mark Hogue. I will call the meeting of the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Board for the City of San Angelo to order. The first item that we take on the agenda at each meeting is public comment, but if you have an issue that you want to take up that is not on the regular agenda, this is your opportunity to come up and have a few minutes to tell us what you want. We can't discuss it or take any action on it, but if you have a comment, now is the time. If you are here on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until that item is called up for your public comment, because we will take comment on all items on the public agenda. So time is open for public comment.
Hello, Evelyn Smith, SMD5, and I'm here to follow up on the Gethsemane application for TIRZ funding. My pastor wasn't able to be here today, but correct me if I'm wrong, the last time we had a TIRZ meeting that I attended in regards to this, the statement was made that you were sending something to the city council for them to vote on whether they're going to put a cap on the cap that the nonprofit already have. So I went to the city council meeting, the last city council meeting, and asked them that question. They said that they had sent the TIRZ Board an answer back to that, what action was going to be taken or not. So that's what I'm here for, to see if there's any kind of answer to that question, whether there's a cap on the cap, because Mr. Thompson was the one said he would reconsider if there was a cap, and that's how that came up.
Do you want to address that, Rick? Or,
Certainly. At the last meeting, what I remember is y'all said you took no action.
Correct.
And that was referred back if the council wanted to take action. The council also took no action. So no action has been taken.
On either party.
Yep.
Either party. Well, may I ask at this time, where do I go from here? Because the city council told me that I couldn't make any other request unless I went through the TIRZ Board.
And we can't really get into
I understand.
a discussion on it or take action on it. The guidelines still exist for nonprofits to apply for TIRZ funding as of today. So if you wanted to apply again, you could apply. Now, I think we will be having in the future, I think, some discussions about that topic again to take it up. We don't have that on the agenda for this meeting, though. So I'm hopeful that at some point in the near future, maybe we can find a way to get some of that done. But right now, it's not on the agenda.
Okay, and when we do that, is that a time for me to also ask the question, why do they keep turning us down? They've never really given us an answer for that.
If I knew the answer to that question, I'd be a very wealthy man.
Well, that's another question that I have that I
I don't
think
know.
need to be on the agenda too. So you're suggesting I come back?
Well, we will, if and when the issue comes before the TIRZ Board again, yes, you'll get notice of it and you can come back.
Okay, and that would be my request today, that the
Okay.
TIRZ Board would consider to do that again.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
We'll take that up for future business.
John Mark, may I make a comment
Certainly,
regarding that issue?
as long as it's a comment.
It's going to be several comments. The city of San Angelo is a nonprofit entity, and it has taken millions of dollars from the TIRZ funding for downtown. It's taken, contrary to this board's wishes, maintenance money to maintain the downtown. And it is ironic to me that the city council will deny or take no action on a church on Martin Luther King that's trying to improve the neighborhood. And I think it's disgustable what's going on. And it comes back again, I'm going to support the issue again. We bring it back. And we'll send it back to city council again and see if they'll say yes or no.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there any other public comment at this time? All right, then we'll move on to item 2, consideration of approving the minutes from the October 24, 2023 TIRZ Board meeting. you should have received through email a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. If you haven't looked at them before, if you would take a chance just to look through them real quick, and I'll see if there are any additions or corrections that need to be made.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve by Mr. Benson. Is there a second? I'll second. Second me. All those in favor say yes. Yes. All those opposed? The motion carries. All right. Election of the vice chair. The city council recently reappointed me to continue to serve as chair of the TIRZ Board, but the TIRZ Board itself selects the vice chair. Mr. Gaylor has been serving as the vice chair over the last year, and I will just open it up for any nominations for the role of vice chair. And this, again, was the individual who will preside over the meetings in the event that I'm not able to attend. Greg, are you willing to continue in that role?
Is that
I
something?
can unless somebody else wants to do it.
Are there any other nominations for anyone else?
I think you've done a great job.
I'll stand behind you.
All right. Is there someone want to make a motion to
I'll
appoint?
motion to appoint you for the vice chair, if you're willing to accept it.
Second by Mr. Newland. Motion made by Ms. Owens. Any other nominations? All right, then we'll just close nominations and put it to a vote. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Gaylor. Don't be checking the mail every day for that check, though. So, all right, item number 4 for the financial report. Aaron?
Good afternoon, Chairman Hoag and board members. Aaron Vanoy, Assistant Director of Planning Development Services. So right now, we're going to go over the finance report for the South. It looks like these numbers were just updated the end of last week. If you notice on the property tax line for the South, this is maybe the first time ever that we've had a valuation over $1 million there in the South. Last year was around $746,000. So that's a significant increase there in the South. And so you can see the South is starting to have a little bit larger pot of funding to utilize for properties in the South. So you see that our private incentives committed, our Chadburn Street, our streetscape maintenance, and our operating. And so that brings our total expenditures to that $880,697. So that gives us right now $979,366 for assignment in the South, and that's probably a very big number to a number of you guys that have been here for a while, and even out to our citizens. What I will just say a word of caution. Currently, these are kind of proposed or estimated numbers. They are working every month on the actuals, so possibly in another month or two, although the number that we had was actually about 100,000 higher, and then Friday they lowered it just a little bit to come down, I think, around $45,000. And that's more closer to an actual. So that's just a word of caution of when we're looking at these things, particularly in the first part of the funding year, these are not actuals from the tax appraisal district. They are very good estimates, but they may change in some manner. So I just want to keep that in your mind. So as Hannah brings forward with some of the South incentive grant items, she's going to have a total dollar amount there, and then we'll have some discussion later if we want to move forward with something on the South in the future during this fiscal year. Any questions on the South before I go to the North?
Any questions?
Good to see the increase.
So interestingly enough, if you look at the North and you think of all those commercial properties and how large the North is, although they're very two long corridors and then kind of combine there on 29th and go up 87 just a little bit, but they're at 1.1 for an estimated tax valuation for that. And then you see there's some interest income that they're adding to that. So it gives us 1.170 for the North. Again, there is a pretty good balance that's been there, and you can see what we've been committed on Chadburn Street, the private incentives that have been committed, the streetscape, the public improvement set aside, and the operating for 1.9. But that gives us for assignment on the north 2.387, and that's a pretty big number. And I know we've been talking with Monica with downtown San Angelo, and Hannah and her are going to start kind of strategizing of how we can market out to the north that there's some funding out here available, and we'd really like to use it in some manner. Any questions on the north finances or the finances in overall?
And this may be for Rick. Rick, is the city still on a modified accrual counting system?
You're gonna, we'll have to have Tina answer all that question. Mike is our finance guy, so I don't want to that's not my area, so I don't want to misspeak.
My understanding we are, but I may be incorrect. But if I am correct, then we are on modified. It's first in, first out. And so any interest earned in that fiscal year comes automatically back in when that interest is earned, and it should go into the fund. I know the council voted not to put that interest into the next year, and I don't understand why. They're not following their own counting procedures.
Those are Tina questions. I can assure you that the interest made within the TIRZ zone stays in the TIRZ. It doesn't go off to some other area. It doesn't go back into the general fund. So it stays within the fund.
Okay.
But when it comes in at the first of the year or the end of the year, I don't know. That's a finance question.
Okay, but, there was an issue last year on we were going to use some interest to help fund one of the projects. And the council wouldn't let us do it because it said its interest was going to be applied after October 1.
It was discussed by council, and yes, that's what they said. So that was their determination, not staff's, so.
Okay.
So last year, whenever the city council did take out the stuff for some park improvements and vehicles and stuff like that, I know there was going to be a continuation of that each year. Is that what is the street maintenance?
Yes,
Part of
that is the
that, okay.
streetscape maintenance that, for the north and south, that is for those, and Rick, you can correct me if I'm incorrect, but it is for their vehicles, their maintenance of their equipment, and the staffing, is that correct?
Yeah, it's all that maintenance going on, and you'll see they've been doing a really good job, I think, keeping that looking tidy, so.
Okay.
I think it's good for downtown.
Yep, okay.
Any other questions on the north?
I do, and it's just because we're in that area. Will it ever extend past Chadburn? Is that a consideration to go, to Maine or maybe even in some of the other main corridors that meet into Chadburn and meet into that side of town?
We would have to create a new TIRZ district for that to happen under the state codes. It's very difficult to expand once you have one set, once the boundaries are set. And there are specific rules on how much residential, and so we'd have to really look and see what are the economic benefits of us doing that.
Okay.
But that's something certainly through talking with your city council member that may have appointed you, of saying, all right, city council member, do you think that's an item to bring up for a strategic meeting or something like that?
If there's a surplus and it leads into that area, I think, yeah, it's
And I
okay.
think this one, I don't remember when this one sunsets. Does anybody remember when this TIRZ? I don't remember the date, but
I'll have to look at the date,
some
yeah.
point, usually they do, and so, that might give you an opportunity to create another one.
Yes.
So that's another question with the sunset date on.
Yeah, I
this
don't
is-
know,
okay.
we'd have to ask.
When the TIRZ expires, it would have to come up for renewal, or it could be modified or changed in some way. Or you could just do away with it and create a new one.
Create something different,
Yeah.
might be the easiest.
Okay?
Hopefully by then it would have run its course of what it was intended to do, which was
Right.
revitalize that area, and you let that income go as it will, and you go to another spot.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the financial report? Okay, then we'll move on to item number 5, consideration of a request for the extension of Franco's Cafe Incentive Project 2218 Martin Luther King.
Yes, this is Franco's Cafe. Mr. Pfluger has requested an extension He has had a difficult time finding the right contractors after they've done some extensive design work based on elevations, trying to mitigate some flooding and things right in that area next to where he's going to have the drive-through. And so this is Franco's project there on the right that was submitted at the time. Their effective agreement was February 16th, 2021. They have not been able, they have utilized some of the activities. They've done some interior remodeling and things. They just have not gotten the exterior done, and it comes down to contracting. I believe we did include the letter, the request letter in your packet from Mr. Pfluger, talking about that he has got a contractor now committed, and they are, I believe he said sometime early summer, June-ish, something like that. And so city staff is recommending the extension of a 1 year, so that would give him a year from this meeting
1
date.
year from now.
Yes, sir, 1 year from now to get that completed. And that's been pretty standard by what the TIRZ Board has done in the past, the research that Hannah and I could do on extensions, and so we think that's reasonable at this time. I'm not sure he was going to be able to make it here today to speak on the challenges he's had, but. Oh, there you are, sorry.
She's,
So he has a representative here that can come and speak on the case.
And this is, and the 1 year is what he requested, is that
The one,
correct?
I don't remember if he put 1 year in the letter or not. He may have.
I thought it
but-
said 1 year.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from any of the board members on this one? Or do you want to?
Didn't this come up at the end of last year? I thought we did last year. Was that a year ago? Oh, gosh, okay.
Do you want to hear from Mr. Pfluger's
I'm good,
representative?
I'm good.
we're good with it.
Oh, okay.
I make a motion we approve it, extension for 1 year.
Motion's been made by
From today's
Mr. Brown to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Newland. All right, if there's any public comment on this item, now is the time to come up and make any public comment for or against. Seeing nobody approaching, we'll just call for the vote. Then, all those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 6, welcome, Mr. Holmes.
You get to buy dinner for everybody tonight.
We're on item number 6, consideration and possible action of several South Tiers projects. So, hello, Hannah.
Hello, everyone. I'm
Take us
Hannah.
through these.
I kind of broke it down a little bit, and as you can see, the newly available for assignment is down here. This is also at the end of the slideshow. I just wanted to show y'all kind of before, just a breakdown of everything. But I will get to it as we go to the end.
Let's just go through each of the projects then.
Perfect. So we have 32 East Twig first. They're requesting $75,000. We're recommending the full amount as well. It looks like they're going to be doing some facade improvements, historic preservation, restoring 18 awnings with the metal material, and also replacing their door units with the ADA entry systems. This is what they're proposing.
This is the cactus.
Yes, sir. This is what they're proposing right now. This is what it looks like currently. That is, I think that's all I have for this one. I didn't know much about the ADA stuff.
I'm here to speak on that if I
Perfect. But that's all we have for this one.
What I would suggest we do, board members, is if we can just kind of scroll through all of these.
Okay.
And then see if anybody has any issues that we want to take on one at a time, or whether we just want to vote on them all
That works
together.
for me.
So,
Next is 40 West Twig, which is the Spur Building. They're requesting $75,000. They're looking to do a secondary egress and then modernization of the elevator. This is what it's looking like right now. It's just essentially they're just trying to redo the elevator so they can access the higher floors. Then we have 214 South Chadburn. They're requesting $56,000. Looks like they're wanting to do some facade improvements and then add the outdoor patio space. This next slide is what it looks like right now. And then this is what they're proposing to do. Then we have 202 Martin Luther King. requesting 75,000 as well. They're looking to do some facade improvements, landscaping installation, and then strengthen the overall visual appeal. This is what it currently looks like. And this right now is what they have kind of next door, I think, but they're just kind of based it off of that as well. This over here is what they're proposing. And it's a water irrigation business. I believe Paul's here as well. Yes.
Yeah, it's Jost Landscaping.
Yes.
And they do RO water out of that building. That's the old service station there in the corner of Martin Luther King and I believe Second.
Right.
And so they're going to do a full facade and landscape project.
And then this is just like an aerial view of kind of the finalization of it. Next, we have 123 North Chadburn. They're requesting 20,760. Looks like they're looking to do some facade improvements, enhance the exterior of the gallery, and then recreate their original awning. This is the proposal of the mural that they're looking to do, and I believe it's going to be on that side of the building right there. This is just a closer view of what the awning, side view of what they're kind of proposing, just a breakdown of it. And then lastly, we have 441 Rio Concho. They're requesting 75,000 as well. They're looking to do some facade improvement and then repaint the exterior of the Clarion Hotel. This is a before and after. And then now to the breakdown.
Available for assignment 979, 366. And the 601, 903, 58 is what we would be,
What would be the difference?
what we'll be awarding, if we awarded the grants in the full amounts that they had applied for.
This would be the total that we're awarding, 377.
377,
So the
okay.
601 would be the difference of the
Difference, okay.
979.
Gotcha. Thank you for keeping me honest, Hannah. Okay. Well, what's the board's pleasure? We can pull one or two items out for further discussion if we want. We can take them each individually and vote on them individually, or we could vote on them as a group.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve all of them.
Well, I have a question about a couple of them.
Okay?
Okay, why don't you go ahead and ask your questions then?
The 32 East Twig, that's the Mesquite Mean. Now, is that a rental property, or did they own that?
It's the Cactus Hotel, it's in the Cactus Hotel.
Right,
Yeah,
so is that rental?
It's actually going to be the entire Cactus Hotel first floor with the awnings. And the entrances, they're going to make them more ADA compliant,
Okay.
which is one of our new items, our incentive policies that we can use as criteria.
Okay.
And so this is a big change for them. It will actually help them
So
quite a
this is
bit.
actually from the Cactus as
Yes,
opposed to
Yes,
that is
it's
correct.
not, it's not,
That was-
Mesquite Bean is not the applicant, it is
That was
Mr.
my
Fluger.
question.
That is
Okay.
correct.
That was my question there. And then, what is 214 South Chadburn? What is that current?
That is
The
Plateau
Plateau
currently.
Brewing.
Sorry, I'm going.
It's the
That would
old,
be,
if you go back to the days, the old Coney Island. And now it's the Plateau Brewing Company.
So this would actually be
Restaurant.
kind of, there's not an alleyway back there, but this is behind the building. There's a parking lot to the south.
What's
and
next to it? I'm trying to visually figure out where I'm
Going to the north, I think, the Dead Horse. Dead Horse and a couple of other facilities
Parking lot just to the south.
to the
at.
south.
Okay, okay.
South of that is there's a
Clock.
boot.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yes,
Okay, I'm
right.
with y'all now.
On the elevators for the 40 West Twig, is that something that is approved on there, is it's elevators?
Yes, we saw that as an ADA compliance item
Okay.
because they're not able to use their second, third floors because they don't have ADA access to it. And so we did talk with our legal department, and they felt very sure that it met the criteria.
Okay.
And we did look at that, and that does make a significant impact down there at that building, because if you can start putting offices and other things on those floors, there's going to be a lot more usage of that building.
So even though it's an internal, they're considering that an external
Yes.
improvement?
And
The
what
ADA,
business is
I didn't
that?
think of that, okay.
The
Sorry.
address? That is the 40 West Tewig.
Yeah, 40 West Tewig.
Yeah, which building? I'm like you with Plateau Brewing.
This-
I can see it in my mind. I just can't think what's there. Which,
Okay, well,
Spur building?
her question was about the spur building at 40 West Tewig. That's at 40 West Tewig.
Yes.
The-
okay.
You want it, are you trying to get some
I have a question.
clarification?
No, mine is
Okay,
it
well,
is the
that's-
Spur building. I was confirming
Oh,
that.
okay, all right, okay.
Okay, so I heard you all say something about ADA with the elevator and all of that. So what does that say about the parking? What's going on with the parking for this site? Is it ADA already, or is that included in what they would do?
That's a good question. I know in the request, they didn't talk about parking. I know they have that parking lot to the south. I don't know if they have any ADA spots there. I do know on Chadburn, when the South Chadburn project was done, there were a number of ADA spots that were created on both sides of the street. So there are ADA spaces available, but I just don't know about that specific parking lot.
That's not part of this application, though.
That was not part of
No,
the
sir.
request in this, no.
They would still have to get approval from the city with the parking and.
If this triggered additional parking,
downtown
or
districts.
they needed to create ADA parking, we would work through that, through their permitting process.
And the parking garage is not usable, other than the bottom floor? Is that even usable for them?
Is that on the 40 West Tewig, the Spur building?
Yeah, that'd be the one that
Parking
attached to it,
garage
the parking
behind.
garage.
The library.
I'm not sure. They had been working with, the city used to be involved with that, but they worked with them. I believe I'm not positive, but I think it is back. I know they made a lot of improvements to it.
Right, okay.
But I'm not certain that all of the floors are operable or not. But
Yeah,
they
I
did
knew-
make some, you can tell just looking at it, they made some improvements.
It's part of that project, though, isn't it, of the spur building?
That was part of revitalizing that building.
Yeah.
Or getting it back up and going.
So my question still is, I heard that, they would be able to then begin using the spaces on the first floors. I guess my question is, how would they use it if it's not accessible off the street or sidewalk or
I think the
parking or what have you?
I think the building is accessible. It's just you can't get to the upper floors
Upper floors.
without, and so right now they're not utilizing the upper floors as they should be.
Okay, that was
And
what
so
I needed
this
to
would
know.
allow them to now, it's not considered an exterior thing at all. Your stuff allows for interior things such as sprinkler systems, ADA issues, and this falls under the ADA.
Okay, that was my question you answered. Thank you.
Do you want me to go back to that other slide?
Was there someone else had a question on any other?
Only, and I'm kind of debating whether I should even bring it up because I may get my hand slapped on it. But I know that there was some talk about the sign at the Cactus and it being out of compliance. Is that part of this as well, or should we
No,
just skip that?
That's not part of this application.
Okay, so
That's
that, is that?
not
an
part
app-
of it, and it is
Yeah.
not out of compliance.
It's not, okay. So they wouldn't have any reason to apply for this, for
Yeah,
that then,
so-
to add to it for that, to
That
repair
is not an issue that's
Okay.
before us, so
Okay.
we have to be concerned with.
Since there was a little money left over, I thought that might be a,
Well, they would have to apply for it if they wanted it.
okay.
All right. Any other questions on any of these items? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I made it, approve them all.
Okay. Mr. Brown has made the motion to approve all of the requests as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Holmes. That was a bold second. All the-
Hannah, can you go to that final slide that shows?
We will now take public comment on any of these items from anyone who is here to speak as to any of them. You don't have to, but you're welcome to come if you want to speak to your particular project. This is your opportunity. I guess the thing is, when you're ahead, stop. All right, so all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? And the motion carries. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is item 8, a discussion and consideration of a second funding cycle in the South Tiers. This is because, as you see, now we're getting to the 601, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's the 601 that is left. We had We had a cycle for the south zone, that has now closed. The option is whether we want to reopen that for a second funding cycle, is that correct? Mr.
That is correct. As we've been able to indicate that we do have around 600,000 remaining in our south zone. In years past, y'all have not had that luxury to have some extra, or even when you did, you decided to open a second round of funding. And that's our question to the board today. Is there some time during this fiscal year, which is between now and the end of September 2024, do we want to open a second round of funding to utilize those funds in the south, to open it up for businesses in the south to apply?
What's the board's pleasure?
Yes. I'm in favor of it.
Does staff have a recommendation on when that round should be?
Well, staff would recommend that we give staff at least 6 to 8 weeks to consider those applications to bring them back for you. But I think we could open the round of funding possibly either March or April, and then we would be able at the May meeting that we may be able to present those applications to you to see what we can award at that time. The only other caveat I just want to remember that over the next few months, we're going to keep monitoring that number right there. We don't expect it to drop significantly, but if it does, then that may limit how many we can fund. But we do feel very confident we'll have funding available.
We can adjust it.
Do we need to make a motion on that? or-
I think just giving us direction that you would like to do that and which month you would like us to open up the applications.
We open the funding effective March 1 this year.
I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve that. Follow your recommendation as of March 1. Is there any discussion on the board on that?
I think we need to notify people in the south that we do have a second round. We've been, since I've been on this board,
Yeah,
we have
only
not
done.
had funding, we've not had adequate funding any single year. We need to let the people in the south know that we have enough funds and let them apply. Because there's people,
Yeah,
a lot of
certainly.
people we've had to turn down. Maybe we can get them to come back and maybe we can help them finally.
Yeah, we will certainly utilize some mechanisms through the city, like our social media. And then Monica Ramos with Downtown San Angelo, we're going to work very closely with her to help get that word out, particularly in the south for this area. And she's also working in the north of getting to those businesses, hey, there's funding available. But yes, we will work on getting some information out to the public.
Well, I know in the past, y'all even, in the north, y'all even done a mailer, little flyers, hey, this funds are available, please apply, stuff like that, in effect, y'all got a lot of people to apply that way, but we need to get the word out and get those people to come back.
They can look at that, but keep in mind that it is Downtown San Angelo's task primarily to market the program for us.
Yeah.
So we've already met with Monica, we had a change over there from Dell to now Monica, and she was at a meeting the other day. And so we will be working with them to make sure they have all that info and can market that appropriately for us. The planning staff that's why they're doing it. That's more their world of doing, not, and so we'll be working to make sure they have that info.
You hear that, Monica? Okay.
Will do.
All right. Any other questions before we open it up for public comment? Does anyone would like to comment on this from the public on opening up this second round for applications in the South TIRZ zone? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is discussion and possible action on 4th Street between Martin Luther King Drive and North Chadford Street.
All right, so I think Mr. Brown asked kind of for an update at the last meeting, maybe October, whenever our last meeting was. And so I've been kind of digging around, trying to get any kind of information, talking with our real estate division. They have not been able to make any headway on ownership of the property between the two different owners that claim the property. And then I also talked with our executive director of Public Works, and he talked about The project really hasn't been put in the CIP or the capital improvement program cycle yet of what we would do as a city. And so currently, they don't have any plans to add it to the CIP either, and so they're seeing it as a much lower priority. My question back to the board is, how much do you want city staff from the TIRZ side to be monitoring this to try to do anything on 4th Street? So this is the area just south of the railroad between Martin Luther King. That's kind of where Palmer feeds, I think, and there's a couple of agricultural warehouses there. And then it comes across to Chadburn, and there's a moving company in there. And then you get to the, I believe it's Hartman Roofing, and then to the Habitat store that's at the end. And so that's that street kind of corridor. The right-of-way is not very good defined. The roadway is, in some areas it's okay, other areas it's not okay. There is some areas that are either owned by the state or owned by a private individual, and so there's just some challenging areas in there.
And just for perspective, for some of our newer board members, this has been an item that's been on the, periodically brought back and forth. I'm not really sure where it came from. I think it's been discussed at about every TIRZ Board meeting since I've been on the TIRZ Board. Or not every TIRZ Board meeting, but it's been a constant, periodically we'll get updates on it. It's not a project that there's a private property owner that's applied for anything. It's just a question of whether TIRZ money should be used to do a project on 4th Street to fix it up. And there are issues. You can correct me where I'm wrong on these, but there are issues about ownership, who owns the property of the right-of-way. Some of it may be owned by a private citizen. Some may be, I think there's an issue about whether some of it's owned by the Texas Department of Transportation, and whether you could, first issue from a city street standpoint would be, we would have to, if we want to use TIRZ funds to pave a street or fix a street, it has to be city property. We have to own it and have the right to do that. And that's, I think, the issue that supposedly has been being worked on over the years, but not much doesn't sound like any progress has really been made in that regard. So that's kind of where it is. And I guess what staff is asking us now is, they've been putting time and effort into trying to monitor that, see what can be done to move it forward. Do we want them to continue to do that, or would we rather have them spend their efforts on something else for the time being until something future happens? So we'll open that up to any questions and comments from the board on that topic.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said the real estate division has been researching this, and so even through title searches and all of that, they can't find the rightful owner, and how far did they dig into this, I guess is my question, as to who owns it?
I would say we have a private owner that states they have claim to it. The real estate hadn't really been able to have all that information, and it's very difficult to get the state to provide any information on their holdings. That has been the challenge we've had. Most of it is still an abstract from the late 1800s, and so there's really not if it's really the state's land, there's really not a strong paper trail there.
So who has a deed? Does either one of them have a deed?
They have not been able to locate that as of yet. From our real estate office, talking with them late this last week.
But as best we understand, that's basically an issue between this private property owner and the state.
Right.
Not the city of San Angelo.
Right.
Right.
And since the project or that roadway is not a high priority in the whole scheme of the millions of roadways that Public Works is trying to deal with, this one is sort of like, from a Public Works standpoint, let the state and the private owner try and work it out, because it's just not a high priority for the city at this point.
And there's no, I assume that the individual doesn't have any sort of surveys. It's just been there for so long that there's no.
I don't know exactly, but
Yeah.
once again, it would be between them and the state.
Well, I'm the culprit that brought this up over 3 years ago.
I wasn't going to say
And
anything.
I'm tired of beating a dead horse. When the state has right-of-way claims because it has the right-of-way from the railroad, and there's a private owner that thinks he has ownership. I just thought it was a disgrace that we've spent over $100,000 on Fourth Street in trying to improve things up there. We had a Jake Lake-like street. And so I'm gonna just say, let's back off, forget it.
That's kind of my tendency. I think we have more important projects that staff, even from the TIRZ side, can be working on at this time until if there's a future resolution about that, then.
Didn't pay the power bill.
No, I think the power bill's been paid. I think the timer went off.
Is that our cue?
Yeah.
We're done.
Sorry. Meeting's over. So I think, and unless anyone else feels differently, I think we just kind of give staff the direction to not pursue that any further. Is that fair? Okay.
Because has anybody, wanted to do anything with it? I mean, actively? I mean, because if they haven't, I'm just curious why
Well,
we were
the
looking into
city,
it.
they used TIRZ funds, I believe, to make some improvements to Fourth Street before I ever came on the board.
Okay.
And there's been a couple of
And
private
another
projects that have
section on
received
down the
TIRZ
street,
funding.
And when you get to this edge of the street, it's just not in good shape, and it's an eyesore, I guess,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
So who keeps
But
up
it's
the
not-
property?
Well, the city-owned portion, which is towards the east end, the city does provide maintenance on that. The other end, that is not a city-maintained road, so that
not a
would either be
street.
the state or the private owner, but probably the state if they have
And
So
claim
what does
to
it look
it.
like today? Because I'm not familiar with where this is.
It's a little rough, Shirley.
It's
a little rough.
It's a little rough.
It's like a trail more than anything.
You have to do it, you're going down Fourth Street and you, all of a sudden you do a dido and you get on Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even think portions of it are paved.
It's a screwed up mess.
Well, and it's not a city street, it's not dedicated as, or recognized or accepted as a city
Well,
street.
but it's
for
open on
maintenance
the ground,
purposes.
it's open by prescription. Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
well, it is, but that doesn't mean it's an official city street.
Is the city asking us to do anything with it? I guess
No.
So then
No.
I think that there's no reason
Yeah.
we need to.
Okay. I think
That's
I think that's your direction, Aaron.
Okay.
All right. Next item, director's report on, and discussion on board training. I don't know, do you have anything different for a director's report?
Other than we do believe we will have a February meeting, we've had a couple of inquiries about North funding, and if they're able to get something to us, it's a full packet, we might be able to bring that forward. We might have a few more discussions, and then part of it is this, I believe it was you, Mr. Hoag, that asked, could we do some training with some of our new members here, maybe one of our new members, that we could do here in the meeting of what is TIRZ, what is the history of TIRZ, and things like that. But I'd like to hear if anybody has any ideas of what you would like to be trained on,
Well,
those types of things. So
I brought that idea up because we have several new members, and I know when I first came on the board, I understood what a TIRZ was, but it takes a while to get to know the vernacular and what we're talking about and understanding the process that goes on before it ever gets here. What I was thinking of is if there was just some kind of short presentation sometime when we have a meeting that does not have a heavy agenda, if we only have one or two items or something, then we could just do that if we could just have staff do that presentation for the full board. For those that are newer, I think it might be of help to understand, what the TIRZ is, exactly where it is, why the north and south zones, how do we get the word out to the public, how do applications come in, what kind of information does staff get, just a general overview of the process and of the TIRZ. I just thought that might be of help to new members.
okay. We're happy to put something
But if
together.
there's something else anybody else wants to know about, or that you've thought about, I wish I knew more about this, or something, this is time.
And we'll probably be getting with Monica's, because it might be very helpful for her to kind of explain, well,
Yes.
here's what downtown San Angelo's
Yes.
role is. If there's any type of legal items, we'd probably be working with Holly. She might have a slide or two that might just talk about some legal things that, just to be aware of as a board member. And then Hannah and I can put together about what the program is, what we've done in the past, things like that. That
And
might
just
be very
sometime in
helpful.
the next 2 or 3 meetings, maybe. And if we have a February meeting and we only have, a couple of items from the north, that might be a good time to do it.
Okay. That's all we have for the director's report at this time.
Next scheduled meeting is for February 27th, 2024. Future agenda items, Mr. Brown echoed what I was thinking, and with Ms. Smith here today, I do think we would like to just put on for discussion and possible action on a recommendation to the city council about what to do about nonprofits and the North Tiers in general. I'm thinking that there might be some opportunities to kind of clarify. And this is just something I've been thinking, and I don't know how to put this in agenda item, but we primarily have focused on the tiers as private development, private reinvestment on private property. It can also be used, I contend it could be used for nonprofit organizations, and it also has been used for some public improvements in that region. And sometimes we're a little resistant to that, primarily because we're afraid, I think, I'm not speaking for everyone, just for myself, we're afraid that the money's going to all be spent by the city on something the city should be budgeting for, and we're not going to have any money left to help businesses out. But I was kind of thinking if we could start having a discussion about whether there's a way to accommodate all of those different, public improvements plus nonprofits, dealing with our nonprofits and with private businesses and grants for private businesses. If we start thinking about it in a more flexible way, then maybe we can get past some of these, not fights we've had, but I guess disagreements between us and council and between us and maybe other citizens too.
What we might put together, if this sounds like something the board would be leaning toward, is based on your comments, is something that basically maybe shows historically what have you used in the north for grants over the last, however many years? What's your trend, of average, to where you can set aside at least that much and probably a little more to make sure that you can cover applications that may come in, and then any additional of that, how you might utilize those for other types of projects, whether that's a cap, a certain percentage on nonprofits that might go in that region, and then other type projects that may be more infrastructure type projects that you might want to fund.
Yeah, and I don't want to, and I think you have to be very careful too, because, this is the this is the discussion for next time, but, I'm not saying you just want to open up the checkbook and say, do whatever you want with it, but I do think that there are projects in the North Tiers, such as if we could use some of that money to help really fix Chatbird Street up, that would be a big boon, I think, to the area overall. So there's some things like that I think you can do, but we'd have to have more of a discussion about it, and that's why I just want to have the discussion.
And you may want to, when you look at those, there's times when Public Works will be bringing those type projects where we're saying like they're going to be repaving Chadburn. Well, the city may be budgeting for that, but they're not doing anything outside of that. So you may want to say, you know what, if we put sidewalks along that road and put some trees in here or there or something like that, that's going to make an impact, and that's something that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So you may look at those kind of options.
If we could also think about that in the context of the city is another applicant, as opposed to the city just tells us what we're going to do with it. But if we could have a process where if the city staff or Public Works says, look, here's something that's, as you said, we don't have money for in the city budget, but we think it could be a benefit, and it would, maybe we set criteria for it, I don't know. But I just want to have the discussion, because I think we have, $2.3 million or whatever sitting in that fund, or $3 million was the total balance previous. We're not getting the benefit out of it for the north that we could be getting.
Your timing's probably good too. I think you're going to be seeing an item probably coming at the next meeting. It was at council last meeting. Yes. Where you may have seen in the paper, the city got a $18 million grant to do a lot of stuff. Well, part of that is work along Chadburn. And so I think the board had told staff a long time ago, you'd like to leverage your dollars. If you can leverage that against grant dollars, you'll see Patrick Frerick, I believe, coming at the next meeting to talk to you all about that project.
Well, we can continue on doing the same thing that we've been doing and just having the same frustrations with not enough applicants, but we have all this money what can we be doing with it?
Right.
And I think it's time to have that discussion.
If y'all want us to bring something specific to that, let us know. We can bring data, but if there's something specific, y'all just need to let
Well,
us know. what
mainly,
that
we
is.
just want it I do want it to have for an action item in the event that we want to take a vote, but mostly it's for start the discussion. Shirley, you had a question?
Yes, I do. I don't know if I need to address this to you, to the Assistant City Manager, but how do we get to the point where we actually have a strategic discussion on maybe modifying the, we'll call it criteria, that checks certain boxes, and the city council then has to approve it as if we've approved it or not, some way so that we're not beating ourselves up, constantly making recommendations that then the council does not accept. So is there some way for us to do that?
Yeah, but typically what's been done in the past, if y'all have suggestions, one, talk to your council member who appointed you is good for everyone to do, to see what, how we can align. But secondly, if there's things in our current policy that's just not meeting what they're looking for, then we need to look at changing our policy, which is sort of what John Mark's talking about with this discussion. And that may lead into some further discussions, and then those would simply go to council for approval, where you'd say, okay, here's what we're suggesting, are y'all good with this?
So where is this policy? How do we get this policy that's in effect today? Or is it just basically we make recommendations and the council then just individually makes their decision?
You have a application process that defines what you can and cannot fund,
No,
basically.
not for us. I'm saying, when we make our recommendation as a board, as a TIRZ board, to the city, and then they deny our recommendation. I'm saying, how do we rectify that?
You can't unless you talk to them, but they always have the ability to trump any board, doesn't matter which board it is, if they decide
That's right.
differently.
The council has ultimate authority, always. They can,
I understand it, but I guess I was saying, I know they ultimately decide, but I guess I was trying to say, what is the point of making the recommendations if they're always gonna not agree, not accept it?
they think they're smarter than we are.
Well, that's a topic for another day, but, Stephen, but I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is we've got to move this beyond just making a recommendation and it gets shot down. And there's various ways to do that. One of the ways I'm thinking about right now is rethinking how we're doing and getting more in line with that. For example, with what I'm thinking about is you can have a way that you can help a limited number of nonprofits in the area protect the money that you need for private businesses, but also use what's ever not being used to benefit the community as a whole. What we have to do, Shirley, I would suggest, I do think talking to council members is a good idea, but what we really have to do is get in a vision and get on the same page. And I've heard some objections, from council members when I was there about the nonprofit situation. I think there is room there that we can find middle ground on. It's just going to take some more discussion, and I think we'll get there.
John Mark, I would like to see some criteria that defines a dilapidated vacant structure that would be utilized by a nonprofit for better use than it is now. That church is a dilapidated structure as it sits right now, that we've voted to approve twice, and the council's turned down twice. And anything you can do on Martin Luther King to improve the appearance, regardless of whether it's profit or nonprofit, in my mind, is a worthy goal.
It is. We've kind of probably gone a little bit too off topic from new agenda items anyway, but if you keep that thought, let's put it on the agenda I want to have a topic broad enough that we can encompass all the things that we've heard about, but that we can also, if we want to pass a motion, we can, on just exploring that on a way forward with nonprofits and maybe just the best utilization, the strategic vision, I think maybe someone used that phrase. Was it you? You, strategic vision on how best we attack the north zone and deal with the funds in the north. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
Be happy to work on that. Any other items for future agendas?
I have a different question. I was
Yeah.
approached by somebody in the North Tier last week, and I did not know the answer. I told them to contact staff, but they had gotten TIRZ funds in the past, but they asked that how many times they could be funded for demolition. They'd done some work and some demolition in the past, and they want to do some more demolition on something else. I told them I didn't know that answer, but they need to contact staff. Is there a policy on that?
I think there is a policy on how many times you can receive funding. It's not necessarily tied to demolition, but we will look into that and get an answer for them. But yes, I don't know if they've already contacted Hannah, or I don't think I've talked to anybody, but we can certainly look in our criteria and see what is there currently and get that answer
They
for
just
them.
need to call
Yeah.
and get.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anything else for the future agenda? One thing before we adjourn, I do want to thank Hannah. Great job. It was a good presentation. So Hannah's our new right-hand person. There we go. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.